Greetings of the day. First, I want to thank the International Research Excellence Best Paper Awards Scientific Committee for nominating our article and selecting it under the category of Most Readers Article Award. Again, thank you for giving us the time and the opportunity to present our article. This article is done by me, Lchrak, Dridi, and Professor Adel Bougrara. It seeks to stress and quantify the effect of full-fledged inflation targeting adoption on stock market returns and their conditional volatility by using the propensity score matching methods. This presentation is organized as follows. First, we'll begin with the introduction, motivation, research questions, the objective. Then we will move to the literature review, the methodology, the results, robustness check, and we'll end up with the concluding remarks and policy implications, paper contribution, and future research areas. Central banks are mandated to fulfill well-defined and specified objectives, such as price stability, managing economic fluctuations. There is a wide consensus in the financial economic literature that monetary policy actions have their effects on these variables with rather long lags, transmission lags. Most studies have argued that these actions propagate to the target variable directly through financial markets. And the functioning of the stock market makes them very responsive not only to policy actions but also to other news, making stock prices the most closely watched asset prices in the economy because, among other things, they are highly sensitive to economic conditions. From the perspective of monetary policy makers, central bank monetary policy and the value of firms, their stock returns linkage, has been a hotly debated topic in the financial literature. Theoretically, the effects of the central bank policy rate changes propagate to stock prices via at least three channels. For example, the interest rate channel, the wealth channel, the credit channel, the stock market channel, etc. So we're going to move now to the motivation. Monetary policy are set up to achieve ultimate objectives, such as inflation, output. There's a wide consensus in the financial economic literature that monetary policy actions have their effects on these variables with transmission lags and propagate to the target variables indirectly through financial markets. There are as many monetary transmission paths as there are financial markets in the economy, according to Shamil article in 1999. So to preserve monetary policy effectiveness, central banks have to account for financial factors that may disturb their monetary policy transmission channels. The growing role of stock markets has made it a topic of several debates. So stock markets are considered as independent sources of macroeconomic volatility, according to the final Bernanke and Kuttner in their article of 2005. Stock market relationship with economic indicators has been considered in several empirical studies, showing a significant relationship between stock market and different economic indicators. On the other hand, these economic indicators stand for policymaker objective. In fact, policymakers have two objectives in mind, namely price stability and financial stability. And to reach these goals, different monetary policies have been adopted, such as the monetary aggregate targeting, the exchange rate targeting, and inflation targeting. And the poor yield results under exchange rate and monetary aggregate targeting monetary policies can explain the recourse to inflation targeting. Central banks' actions are believed to propagate to economic indicators through different channels, such as the interest rate channel, the credit channel, the stock market channel. And these economic indicators, in turn, have a significant effect on stock markets because stock markets are considered to be very sensitive to economic conditions. Moving now to the research question. The aim of this article is to contribute to this ongoing debate by investigating the possible effects of full-fledged inflation targeting adoption on one component of the financial market, namely the stock market. So the question is, does full-fledged inflation targeting adoption have an effect on stock market returns and their conditional volatility in advanced countries? The objective of this study is to investigate the potential effect of full-fledged inflation targeting framework on stock market return and their conditional volatility by considering a set of 20 advanced countries. More precisely, the objective is to check and to quantify the effect of inflation targeting adoption on two proxies of stock market performance, namely stock market returns and stock market volatility. A close inspection of the related theoretical and empirical literature permits splitting such studies into two strands. The first strand to highlight the impact of the monetary policy outcome, namely inflation variability on stock returns and volatility. The second strand seeks to highlight the effect of the policy instrument, namely the policy rate, for example, on returns and volatility dynamics. Several empirical studies have been done on monetary policy and stock market nexus. So, for instance, Lchrak has shown that an expansive monetary policy was positively associated to growth in the stock return. Rigo and Sack provided evidence of the existence of a significant positive impact of expansionary monetary policy on stock returns too. As for stock market volatility, Bumper found that interest rate decisions had a significant impact on stock market volatility. As for Gospodina and Jamani, they found that an increase in the central bank policy rate would lead to a rise in the stock market volatility in the case of US monetary policy. When it comes to inflation targeting literature evolution, 4 branches of literature have been done on inflation targeting. The first debate focusing more on inflation targeting adoption prerequisites. Then debate moved to inflation targeting adoption effects on inflation and its volatility. The third strand of literature highlighted inflation targeting adoption effects on other macroeconomic variables such as the output. The most recent debate highlights the inflation targeting framework and regime effects on financial components. When it comes to the methodology and data description, our empirical investigation relies on quarterly data ranging from 1990 quarter 1 to 2015 quarter 1. The total number of observation is 1,806, while the country sample is composed of 20 advanced countries. Here is the treatment and the control group sample of advanced countries. The treatment group is compounded of 7 inflation targeted countries, while the control group is compounded of 13 advanced countries which did not adopt inflation targeting, full-fledged inflation targeting. To achieve the empirical part of this study, we use the treatment effect models. In fact, treatment evaluation is an assessment of an intervention effect on the outcome of interest. Data used is composed of 3 kind of variables. X, which is the observable characteristics of individual I. IT, which is the treatment state, it's a dummy that takes the value 0 in case that country did not adopt the inflation targeting, and 1 in case it had adopted inflation targeting, full-fledged inflation targeting. R, which is the outcomes of interest for treated and control units. In fact, the outcome variables in the case of this study are stock returns and their conditional volatility. The stock returns are calculated by using the following formula, where S is the closing price index, and the conditional volatility is measured by mean of the T-Gauge 1 to a model with 2 thresholds. So in observational studies context, researchers are concerned about the self-selection bias. To get rid of bias emanating from selection are observable when measuring the effects of full-fledged inflation targeting on the outcomes, namely stock returns and volatility. The quasi-experimental approach can be used. One quasi-experimental method is the propensity score matching. In fact, the propensity score matching methodology has been widely used in many fields of economics and finance. Propensity score is suggested by Roosevelt and Rubin, and it's the probability of adopting treatment, which is the adoption of inflation targeting regime in the context of this study, given a set of observable characteristics included in the covariate Act. In fact, propensity score matching consists in matching treated and control units on the estimated probability of being treated. So chief results found in this study. The results from propensity score matching have shown that the impact of pursuing the full-fledged inflation targeting is rather positive and significant, statistically significant for stock market returns of advanced countries. The full-fledged inflation targeting decreases the conditional volatility of stock returns. The results provide evidence of a significant increase in stock return and an important fall in their volatility, and this conclusion holds whatever the matching technique used. To check for the sensitivity of our empirical results to the model specifications and choice of the variables, several robustness checks were carried out. To show how the average treatment effect on treated estimates could be shaped by the choice of the selected variables. Different specifications of a propensity score equation are considered. The same to examine the result sensitivity to the matching technique. For matching techniques are used with difference within parameter, namely the nearest neighbor matching technique, the radius matching technique, the kernel matching, and the stratification matching technique with various specifications. We launched different specifications tests. In fact, to check for the sensitivity of our results to observable bias, we launched the mean standardized difference bias test, suggested by Roswell and Rubin, a visual inspection of the density distributions plot is also done before and after matching. And the Rosenbaum-bound sensitivity analysis is also performed to check the extent to which our average treatment effect on treated estimates are surrounded by the hidden bias. In sum, the results this study puts forward seem to be robust, strong, and can be relied on to draw sound policy implications. Remarks and policy implications. The results put forward in our paper are supportive of the view stipulating that monetary stability leads to lower stock market volatility. Thanks to price stability, the full-fledged inflation targeting achieves, the central bank policy makes the forecast of stock market returns more reliable, which helps market operators to distinguish the variation in the relative prices from variation in aggregate prices, thus helping reducing resource misallocations. Our paper does not argue that central banks must only reach and maintain price stability, nor does trade-offs between monetary policy and financial stability exist. We simply claim that full-fledged inflation targeting countries are on average more able to stabilize their market by reducing volatility and providing stronger communication, transparency, and accountability. In short, the main value added of our research is that it demonstrates that the impact of the full-fledged inflation targeting on advanced economies stock markets are positive and statistically significant in the sense that they enhance their performance and contain these risks as measured by financial indicators, namely returns and conditional volatility. Stock returns and volatility are among the most closely watched financial indicators that shape the investor's decision. It is therefore crucial to identify the potential effects of full-fledged inflation targeting on these indicators. From this perspective, our paper results clearly highlights that full-fledged inflation targeting is beneficial for advanced countries. Thus, to achieve the double objective of price and financial stability, policymakers may, in addition to pursuing full-fledged inflation targeting, carry out macroprudential policies whose main objective is to counter preemptively financial imbalances. So our paper contributes to the extant literature in several ways. First, it attempts to fill the highlighted gap through investigating whether a full-fledged inflation targeting has an influential power on stock returns and volatility. Second, it does so by having recourse to the statistical matching literature and using the propensity score matching methodology, which has been receiving increasing attention in economics and finance, offers the advantage of overcoming some caveats of economic methodologies, such as the self-selection bias and reverse causality bias. Unlike most propensity score based studies in finance and economics, we also carried out a comprehensive battery of propensity score matching related specification tests to ensure that the model we come up with is well specified and sufficiently reliable for inference purposes. So, future research area, we propose exploring the potential impacts of central bank policies on other markets, such as the bond market and the derivative market in economies of both developed and emerging markets. Thank you.